So I have a tutorial today, and that is on this little folio that I made. It was super fun and it was easy to put together. I did get this inspiration for this, and really I just followed her tutorial from a person who is already here on YouTube, and her name is KatyCraftDesign. And she makes wonderful tutorial videos on like mini albums and things like that. But she does speak German. So all of her videos are in German, and they are not like, they're not, she doesn't really talk during them, I guess, because she wants you to be able to just kind of look at what she's doing. And I'm somebody that really benefits from like a talk through tutorial. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys today. I will link her video in the description bar, and go check her out. She makes amazing stuff. So today we are going to make this folio, and we are going to make this exact same one. The only thing we're going to do differently is the binding. Instead of having it wrap around like this, we're going to just put a little paper right here. But I will tell you guys how I did this part, just in case you're interested in doing the same. And everything else is going to be exactly the same. And when I'm watching a tutorial too, I find it helpful to like even to see the same paper and to see the item while I'm making it. So this one is already created, but we're going to create an exact replica of this. And I will show you. So on here, you'll see that it has just a ribbon closure, and this is just ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree. And when you open this up here, you have this magnetic closure, which I will also, you could also use Velcro for this. So I will talk to you about that when we get to that part. And then we have a pocket here, and inside this pocket is a little notebook, which I will also show you how to create, because you can make your very own custom notebook. This was super duper easy, and I just put a few stickers on it. And I will actually show you me like matting. That's another thing that's missing out of a lot of tutorials that I see, is that people usually skip the matting step. I am going to speed it up a little bit because, you know, you probably don't want to watch it at regular speed, but I really enjoy watching people actually also mat their projects, and you get to kind of see how people craft. You might find some tips. I don't know. So I like that anyway. So I'll show you that at the very end. So this is going to be probably the most edited video that I ever make. So be patient with me. I'm trying. I'm also going to just, in a moment, I'm going to show you all the supplies and tools you need. I'm also going to put chapters in this video. So if you want to fast forward and get straight to this tutorial, you'll be able to do that. You'll see there'll be chapters along the bottom and also in the description bar. So if you just want to get straight to it, I'll probably title a chapter, Get Straight to It. Okay. So anyway, on this side here, we have the spine. This is on the inside. And then we also have the back cover. I did just use some embroidery floss. You can also use twine. And this is a little waterfall closure here, and we do use some 3x4 cut apart. So this is perfect for regular collection kits. Like this is an Echo Park collection, and they're actually, you know, they don't do great with ephemera, icon ephemera. And so this is a perfect opportunity to use up those papers that we all love to get in their hauls. There's also a pocket right here. And in here, I just kind of threw some more 3x4 cards, but you could put journaling cards, you can put paper in here, whatever you want. And then underneath here, there's a little belly band that holds just this little insert that you could put a few, you know, 3x3 pictures, like a couple of them, or you could put like, you know, a 3x4 picture and some journaling, or you could do all journaling, up to you. This is just kind of here for you to use it. And I did use another cut apart here. And that is it. So it is a very, very, very simple one. I did not even decorate it too much because I did want it to kind of stay relatively flat, but you can do anything you want. You do have a ribbon closure here, so it does make it easy to, if you need to like open it like this, if you want to put, you know, chunky stuff on everything. Obviously I would not recommend like chunking up this part. So it really only leaves you this side to put a lot of stuff on if you want, but I think this is very simple. And this paper is so pretty that I really didn't want to cover it up. So now our next chapter will just be all of the tools and supplies you need. So if you want to just read that, I am going to link everything that I can. I will put in the description bar, including some of my favorite supplies and tools that I use. I'm also going to try to either put the paper sizes that you need, because I like to cut my paper ahead of time, or I'm going to maybe try to make a little printable. We'll see what I have time for, because I do want this to go up soon. But anyway, let's get into it. So let's go to our next chapter. All right, so we're going to need a few supplies. If you're a crafter, you probably have every single thing that I'm going to talk about here. But the first thing that you may need are a pair of scissors, easy peasy. You may need a corner rounder. This is an optional step, but in order to get to round the corner on this little insert, you will need a corner rounder. You'll also need a bone folder or a scraper tool. So this is the scraper that I use. It's kind of beat up, and then this is the bone folder that I use. You'll also need a pokey tool, or if you have like an awl, you probably could use that if you're like a bookbinder, but I just used a pokey tool and just stuck it all the way through. You could also use like one of these Cricut weeding tools, anything that has a pointy edge. You probably could even use like an ice pick. You will need double-sided tape, or if you're not a double-sided tape person, you could also use glue. This is Barely Arts. This is my favorite. I will link all of this in the description bar. I also buy like off brands of tape. My favorite is Score tape, but I will link that in the description bar. This is actually some tape that I'm trying out. It's okay. It's not as good as Score tape. You also will need either Velcro or magnets. So these magnets I do get on Amazon, and I get them really cheap because, you know, like sometimes magnets could be super duper expensive, but if you don't want to do a magnet, you could also use Velcro. I also buy these rolls on Amazon, and I will put the link in the description bar. You also need, some twine. This is actually bookbinding thread, but you do need twine and a needle. And you could probably even just use like super strong thread. You don't even probably need this big of a needle either. So just like a little mending kit that you have at home will probably do just fine. I like to use these clips because I like to put things, before I'm ready to glue things down, I like to just kind of place them where they're going to go. So I would recommend that you get some clips. You could also use paper clips. You're also going to need a pen, which I have one somewhere. You're going to need some tape. And the biggest thing that you're going to need is a scoreboard and paper trimmer. So sometimes you may have this separately. I have this new Works tool that I'm like obsessed with. And I will warn you now that this project does have a lot of like eighth measurements, and I know some people don't like that, so feel free to round down on anything that you see that has an eighth. But I'm also going to give you some tips on working with eighths because I really like this really thin border around my paper. I don't like my border to be like too big, so I really appreciate 1/8 inches. But I am going to give you some tips on dealing with eighths when we get to that section. And I think that's all. Obviously, you're going to need some decorative elements. I put a rosette and some flowers and some stickers from the collection in here. But you can feel free to leave this as plain as you want or decorate it as much as you want. So you will need some of those. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is all the measurements. So I like to pre-cut my paper ahead of time, then that way I'm just ready to rock and roll when it's time to get the project started. I realize that everybody works in different orders, so I'm going to make sure that I tell you what we're using the item that we're cutting for. And I actually pre-cut, but I am going to show you all of them in detail. Please bear with me. I may be wordy. I am an engineer, like that's my actual job. So I'm very detailed. And so I want you to have everything you may need to do this project right. I know how frustrating it is to start a project and it not work out. So I may say too much for some of you. That's okay. If that's not your jam, that's cool. Keep it to yourself. But for the rest of you, I hope that this is really helpful. Okay, so our next chapter is going to be going into all of the measurements. And I'm also going to do a really brief show of the paper collection that we're going to use. So let's get into that next. Okay, so this is the paper collection that we're going to be using, and this is called Spooktacular Halloween, and it has all of these really pretty pages. This is such a pretty collection. I am enjoying it so much. I'm not going to do a flip through because I do have one of those on my channel, so if you haven't watched my last Echo Park haul, you should watch it because I do a flip through, but I also wanted to show you the stickers that are included, and we're going to be utilizing just a few of these stickers, but I know Echo Park doesn't really have icon ephemera, but they usually do such a great job with their stickers, so this is something else that you could consider utilizing. And they also have this frames and tags set, as well as a little, I think they call it ephemera, but it really is more along the lines of more frames and tags. So actually they also have the options of this, and this is called ephemera. That thing is in the way of it. So that's called ephemera, and this is called frames and tags, and this is what's included. So they really are still kind of frames and tags. But if you're interested, I will leave the link below to where you can buy this. But I did want to show you what we're going to be using. This is such a nice collection, perfect for Halloween, very non-traditional, while still being traditional at the same time. I love this green that's included. But anyway, all right, so let's talk about what we are going to cut. So first of all, what you're going to need is you're going to need 2 pieces of ribbon that are 12 inches long. And you can use any ribbon for this. This is literally just going to be the closure that we're utilizing on here. And then you're also going to need 2 pieces of twine. I'm using embroidery floss just because I felt like it. I'm like never going to use the amount that I have. And this is just going to be utilized. You want something kind of thin because it's going to be matted underneath this paper. So that is just for our waterfall closure right here. And if you don't want, you can take this step out altogether. If you don't want to have a closure, you don't have to have one at all. Also, alternatively, you could try to use magnets in between, like put a magnet here, put a magnet here. That would probably bulk this up quite a bit. So I don't know that I would recommend it, but if you want to just leave this part off, you can. And those are 2 of the non-paper items that we're going to need. Okay, so as far as paper is concerned, first we're going to need super thick paper. So we're going to need chipboard, and I will link the chipboard that I buy. I buy mine on Amazon. It's like super economical. It comes in 8.5 by 11 sheets, and you only need 1 8.5 by 11 sheet. So you're going to need 2 of these pieces of chipboard, and they're going to be cut at 4.5 by 8.5. And then you're going to need 1 that's cut at 1 by 8.5. So the height is always the second number. I always do the width first. So you're going to need this chipboard. And I do not recommend that you use your same paper trimmer that you use to cut paper to cut chipboard. I usually use old paper trimmers that don't really work as well, which we all collect paper trimmers, right? Or you could use a guillotine trimmer. That's what I'd recommend because chipboard is pretty thick. So that is that. Okay, and then we're going to need some solid cardstock, some pattern cardstock, and some copy paper. So first, let's talk about all of the solid cardstock. This means that the dimensions of this can be in either direction. So just kind of use up your scraps if you can. And we're going to need 1 sheet of 12 by 12 paper. I used black. This is going to be to do our cover. So to keep our album together, we're going to use a large piece of 12 by 12, and then we're going to fold this over. And so that's what we're going to need. So you're going to need 1 piece of 12 by 12 paper. You're going to need 1 piece of 3 1/8 by 9.5. And this is going to be for the belly band, which is this part right here. This part here that we have something hidden under. We're going to need that piece for that. And this is going to be scored. And I didn't want to put this ahead of time because I want you to know, just in case you're taking screenshots. What I usually do to notate how I'm going to score something is I will write, first I'll determine what side I'm going to be putting across the top of my scoreboard. So if this is the side, I will put 9.5. If I'm scoring this way, then I'll put the 3 1/8. So again, if I'm scoring this way and I'm scoring like this, and this is going in the front of my scoreboard, I will put 9.5. So here, as you can see, we're going to score along the 9.5 side. So I will usually write 9.5. And then I will say score at, and then I will say what I'm going to be scoring here. So on this 9.5 side, I'm actually going to score at 1/2 inches on both sides. So let me show you what that means, and then I'll kind of speed through the rest of these after I kind of show you. So when you're looking at your scoreboard, which mine is right here, my paper is going to be cut, right? So it's cut at 3 1/8, which is the tick right after the 3, and then it's cut at 9.5. This thing opens, but I won't open it now. So what I mean when I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch is I'm going to turn it on the 9.5 side, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch right here. And then I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch right here. Okay, so that's what that means. So 9.5. So you're going to cut this paper 3 1/8 by 9.5. And the 9.5, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on both sides. And I probably should notate that these are inches, but everything is in inches. Okay, guys. Sometimes it just takes up more space. Okay, so now that you understand that, I'm going to talk you through the other sheets, and I'm going to go a little faster, okay, because I don't want this tutorial to be 2 hours, but I also know that some of you are super intimidated by mini albums or folios, and I do want to give you, you know, more confidence so you can enjoy the crafting that a lot of us enjoy. All right, so all the next sheets of paper you're going to need. So you're going to need one sheet, and these are all 65-pound cardstock. Okay, this is no heavyweight cardstock in this whole entire project. All of it is just regular weight, 65-pound. Okay, then you're going to need 6 pieces of cardstock that measure 3 1/8 wide by 4 5/8, and we're going to score it this way, right? So along the 4 5/8 side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, so you're just going to score at 1/2 inch. The direction that you score the 1/2 inch does not matter. Some of you, your scoreboards start with the 1 over here. Some people's scoreboards start with the 1 over here, but since this is just regular solid color paper, it really doesn't matter if you score it the 1/2 here or you score it over here. Okay, so for me, that just means turning it here and scoring 1/2, and you're going to do that 6 times. So we're going to have 6 of these, and these are our waterfall flaps. Okay, and waterfall flaps are just, let me show you, it's a very thorough tutorial, are just these. So that's what this is for. Okay, so we use that. All right, we're also going to need 1 sheet of paper that measures 2 1/2 by 4 1/8. And on the 4 1/8 side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And that's going to be on both sides. Okay, so we're going to cut this, then we're going to score here, we're going to turn it around, and we're going to score here, 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, and this is going to be for the bottom. On the bottom of our waterfall right here, you'll see that we have a pocket, and that's what this is going to be. This is just going to be for the pocket here. Okay, so that's what that is. Okay, and then we're going to also need 1 sheet that measures 3 3/4 by 7 3/4. This is for our insert, which is this little piece right here that comes in and out. That's our insert. So this doesn't require any scoring or anything. We're going to need another sheet that measures 5 by 10. And this one is a little bit interesting. So this one, along the 5 inch side, which is this side, we're going to score at, so I would have mine here since my numbers start here. We're going to score at 1/2, and we're going to score at 3/4. Okay, so you see here we have 2 score lines. One is at 1/2 and one is at 3/4. Okay, along the 10 inch side, so when we turn it this way, we're also going to score at 1/2 and 3/4 on both sides. Okay, and we just need 1 of these. Okay, so we just need 1 of these, and we're going to score on the 5 inch side, which is this side. We're going to score at 1/2 and 3/4, or if your scoreboard is this way, 1/2 and 3/4. It won't make a difference. And then on the 10 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 and 3/4 on both sides. Okay, and we just need 1 of these. And then I think we're almost done. We're also going to need 1 sheet of paper that measures, let's see, this is for the front flap, and the front flap is just this part right here. I forgot to tell you that this 5 by 10 is for this pocket right here. That's what that's for. And then this is for this little thing right here. So we're actually going to end up corner rounding on this side before we attach that. Okay, so that's what that's for. This is for the front flap, and you just need 1 of these. And with this sheet, on the 2 3/4 side, we're going to score at, it gets a little bit repetitive because we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to score again at 1/2 and 3/4. Okay. And sorry, sometimes I also shorthand. So you see how here I wrote score at, like I start off in the beginning. I usually do it like this, but I'm doing it like this for you guys to just not be confused, but it means the same thing. All right. And then I think that is all we need. Yeah, because this I cut, but it was extra and we didn't actually need it. All right, so then that's it. So that's all the solid color cardstock. Now I'm going to talk to you about all the matting sheets. So this is where our pattern cardstock comes into play. And I'm going to show you this ahead of time because, like I said, I like to cut all my stuff out ahead of time. And I do feel like a lot of times on tutorials, they do not include the matting layer. And I really appreciate like knowing that ahead of time. And now that I've gotten a little more advanced in my crafting, I feel like I see where they get the numbers from, but it's still helpful. Okay, so we're going to make a notebook like we talked about, right? Inside of our pocket here, there's a notebook. And to make this notebook, the notebook cover, we're going to use one piece of paper, and we use this one. This is the pattern that I chose for this. And it's going to be 8.5 by 7 7/8. And on the 8.5 side, I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. So there's a score right down here, as you can see. And then you also, for this notebook, are going to need 5 sheets of copy paper. And this is literally just paper that I pulled out of my printer. You're going to fold them all in half, and then we're going to cut them down. But I'm going to give you more instructions on this when we get closer to that. But that is all we're going to use for our notebook. That's how simple that is. It literally just fits in here perfectly. And that's what we're going to use for our notebook. So that's the copy paper that we needed. Okay, and now in terms of matting sheets, so for our front cover, back cover, and the back of this inside, we're going to need 3 sheets of paper, and the 3 sheets are going to be 4 1/8 by 8 1/8. So as you can see, I did the front cover and the back cover. I did the same. And then on this inside cover, I used this, but these are all the same size. Again, you use whatever collection you have, but just in case you want to make this exact one, or if you just want to know like how many different sheets of paper to use, you know, like you may be using a collection and you may be like, okay, I want to get 2 of the same and 1 different, then you kind of know. And I don't know, this helps me when I'm doing stuff because sometimes picking the paper is the hardest part. Okay, so we have that. Then we're also going to need 2 small sheets for our spine. And this is going to be for both the outside of our spine right here and the inside. So we need 2 sheets that are going to measure 7/8 of an inch, so a little under 1 inch, by 8 1/8. And again, on mine here, I have it wrapped around, but when we make this album this time, we're just going to stick a little matting piece right here, kind of like we did on the inside here. Okay, so that's what that's for. So you need 2 of these, and for that, so that's super duper easy. And then we also are going to need, for our waterfall, we're going to need some cut aparts. So I use cut aparts. You can also just use pattern paper for this step. You don't have to use cut aparts. It's just what I did because I always have a hard time using them. So you can use whatever you want, but basically you're going to need 6 sheets of paper that are 3 by 4, and perfect for us. All the cut aparts on this collection were already 3 by 4. And when I did it, you just want to think about which one you want to be at the top and then how it's going to look, you know, going down like this. You see how I kind of made it like green, white, orange, green, white, orange. You might want to do something like that. But also that all you have to basically think about is the fact that like on the bottom here, you're going to be able to see it. I've also seen where they cut a sheet of paper and they leave like 1/2 inch and then they make this like glitter on the bottom or a fun color, you know, but that's up to you. But anyway, you're going to need 6 of these. Okay. And then you're also going to need, for this insert back here, for matting the insert, you're going to need 2 sheets of paper actually, because when I did my insert, I did the front and I did the back. So you're going to need 2 sheets, and they are going to measure 3 5/8 by 7 5/8. Again, if you're intimidated by the eighths, just round down. Make this 3 1/2 by 7 1/2. You'll just have a thicker border around here. I don't mind eighths, and I really like how that looks. Okay, so as you can see, we need one for the front and one for the back. And I just used the corresponding solids from the collection to do this. And I also put a cut apart, which I will show you when I speed up the video at the end. Okay, so you need 2 sheets of this. No scoring needed for that. And then you also need, for the front flap, this flap right here, you need 2 sheets of paper that are going to measure 1 7/8 by 8 1/8. So they're going to be a little bit under 2 inches this way and a little over 8 inches this way. And almost everything we've mat has been 8 1/8. And that's just because the height of our thing here is 8 1/2. So that's the reason. Okay, so you need 2 of these. I use this one on the outside, and then I also line the inside. You don't have to line the inside. I just think it's a nice touch. So, okay, so you need 2 of those. Okay, you also need a cover for this pocket. So you need 1 sheet of paper that measures 4 1/8 by 8 1/8, and that is just for this little pocket right here. Easy peasy, no scoring needed. And then you also need 1 little sheet of paper, because I did like a little something here. I didn't want this to just stay black. So I did do 1 little sheet that's 3 inches wide by 2 1/8 the height. And that is just to stick right here when we're working on this. Okay. Mine, as you can see, is shorter. That's just because I'm just using a scrap. But if you want to, you don't want to scrap on yours, you can make yours 1/4 inch. And actually, I'll write that down. So instead of it being 2 1/8, you may want it to be, let me erase this actually. So instead of this being 2 1/8, you're gonna do 1/4. So you're gonna do 2 3/8. Okay, so you can do this 2 3/8, and then it'll fit perfectly like this one. Here I had another scrap, and so I just put this little line here. So work with, you have washi, you could do this, whatever you want. And that's just for the top of this pocket. Okay, so I think I gave you all of the measurements. I tried to be specific because the next part we're kind of gonna fly through a little bit. I am gonna take my time in showing you how to assemble the actual folio, and then after that I'm going to speed up the matting process. So I wanted you to be super clear. So hopefully you guys are feeling good about this, and I'm going to talk to you now about how to assemble the folio, and I'll put chapters again, so if this took too long for you, you can just skip to the next chapter, no big deal. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so first we're going to work on our cover, and just to do this we're going to need our 2 sheets of 4 1/2 by 8 1/2 chipboard, and our one that's 1 by 8 1/2, and this is just going to be our the outside of our folio here. So for this is the only step that I really recommend that you actually use double-sided tape, just because sometimes when you use glue it can make it all bubbly, and since this is our cover, I like to always use double-sided tape for this part. So I did pre-put it on just to save us a little bit of time. And I'm going to show you too another trick that I have with using this double-sided tape. And I buy this on Amazon, like I said, and I'll link it in the description bar along with everything else, because I know whenever I'm watching a tutorial I like to see, I like to have links that I can just click, and sometimes I pause the video in the middle of it and add it to my cart like right away, which is a little bit crazy, I know. All right, so we want to, this doesn't have to be like perfect, but we do want to kind of get a feeling for where this is going to go, because we want to make sure we have enough space around the outside border. So on the top and bottom, that really doesn't matter, but on the sides here, you want to, you're probably going to have just about 1 inch, and we're going to just leave a little bit of space in here, not much, probably about 1/4 inch. And they make tools, like fancy bookbinding tools. I will link one in the description bar. I have one, but I never use it, so buy at your own risk. But this is just about where it's going to go. So I'm going to put this first one down, and then I'm going to show you a trick that I kind of do, just to like make sure that this is straight. So this first piece, we just want to focus on making sure that there's enough space on this side. And I usually use this border to help me line it up. So that's good enough. And then I use my T ruler, which I highly recommend. It is optional, so I did not even include it. But what I usually do on this part is I put this little corner right here, and then I use a piece of washi tape. This is how I get around using the bookbinding tool that I have somewhere, but I don't even know where it is in my craft room. So what I do is I make sure that this is like pressed down, you know, that the lip is pressed down and that this is in the corner. And I just like tape this right on here like this so that it won't move. And I do this because then it'll help me with lining these up, you know? Okay, so now I just leave a little bit of space, like, actually, if you want, you can do like an exact measurement since you're using a ruler. So I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a long line here and then a 1/8 inch. So I'm going to basically do that. And then I'm going to press it against here so that it's straight. And then I'm going to look at it and I'm just going to put that down just like that. Easy peasy, right? Okay. And then I'm going to go and take this off on this side. And sorry if there's like odd silence. It's hard to talk through an entire tutorial. So you guys are just gonna hang out with me a little bit. If my tape goes over, I just put it like over that with my hand, but this doesn't really matter because it's gonna be covered up. I'm a very neat crafter. I'm kind of a perfectionist when I'm crafting. So this is gonna go right about here, and I'm using my ruler, but when I made the first one, I did not use a ruler. And I'm gonna make sure that this is kind of level, and I'm gonna stick it down. And that looks pretty good, okay? So that's that. And then because it's washi tape, it comes right up. And if it takes off a little bit of that, that's no big deal. Let me bring my little trash can. You guys, I live by this trash can. It is actually like an acrylic paint water holder that I get at Dollar Tree, but I have never used it as that. When I saw it, I knew immediately that I wanted to use it as a trash can because I was always using random things like this as my trash can. So this is literally perfect because I can literally just wash it if it gets glue and stuff in it. Okay, sidebar. All right. So now we have, this is on really good. And again, like I said, I recommend double-sided because on the back here, you see how this is like super smooth. I feel like if there was glue, you might have seen it. I just don't recommend it for that part. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to make our cover. So what I usually do at this point is I use the bottom of this to score this. And you wanna use good quality paper for this because otherwise it's gonna crack. And if it cracks, it's not the end of the world, but it's not preferred. So I usually use my bone folder here, and I will try to have all my tools locally, but they don't want to come out. And I will sometimes go like this, just along this edge, and I'll actually go this way too. Okay, so then I'm going to do that on all the sides. So I did this side, I'm going to do it on here. It's okay if these are not even, that doesn't really matter. Push it there, score it this way, and I score it this way. I score it that way because it just makes it have like a super sharp corner, which I like. Okay, and then I open these up and then I score it in the other direction. So scoring it is just going to help us. This paper that I'm using, funny enough, was from one of my Ollie's hauls. It's the American Craft paper, and you guys, I actually really like my Joanne cardstock, my Joanne 12x12 better. Oh, I'm so sad because you see how this is kind of ashy once you fold it. I mean, it's not a big deal, but yeah. Okay, and then I'm gonna do this side here, so maybe you can do this along with me. I know I like to do my tutorials with the one that I'm following running in the background. Yeah, so when you do this, try not to just do it in one. I'm just talking, so I'm not paying attention. Try not to just do it in one pass. You kind of want to like convince the paper because then you have less chance of it cracking. And so as you can see, when I did this side, I had no problems, but when I just pushed it over, I kind of have problems here a little bit, but it's okay. It's no big deal. If that happens to you, you can actually honestly just use a permanent marker and just color it in black. If you have pink or something, then you might have to redo it. And if that happens, I would try to just peel this chipboard off beforehand, but once it's attached, it's pretty hard. And I don't know if I did this, but I like to also go on this side and just press in that double-sided tape just to make sure that it sticks well. All right, so now we have some creases, and what I like to do here now is I like to use, again, double-sided tape for this, and I like to go across the bottom here. So I'm gonna go all the way around, actually. So this is why I use my scraper. I also use that Dollar Tree one when I can't find this one, but this one is my favorite one. I've had it for years. It works great. It's supposed to be actually for vinyl. I bought it from a place that I bought vinyl from, but I feel like it works really well. So I put this all the way around. Easy peasy. And then another reason why I like this is because after I go around this here, like this, I also like to go around the edge of the paper. So, and I don't really go past this line down here, this crease, because I'm actually gonna end up cutting all of this off. So I just start right here just to not waste tape, and I do it right at the bottom here. And then I go around and I just do it at the edge, and this just helps me because I'm actually gonna also add glue. And doing double-sided tape just gives me like the immediate stickiness that I need. It also like ensures that my album is gonna last. We are gonna matte paper on top of this in some parts, but some parts we're not. So now I've seen people use glue here. You can use glue, but I prefer to use both for this part. Okay. All right, and don't forget when you go around to burnish so that your tape actually sticks to the paper. It'll make it easier when you're trying to remove the backing. Okay, all right, so now we have this here, and at this point, I want to miter the corners. Now, mitering is just literally cutting it at an angle, but you want to leave space. You do not want to cut it directly to this corner, because if you do, you're gonna see the brown here. So you want to cut it like right outside. Again, there's bookbinding tools. The one that I link will have like a little corner thing, but I don't use it. I just literally just go like outside of it like that much. So you just want to leave like 1/8 of an inch, okay? And you just want to cut all the way around, leaving that 1/8 of an inch. The angle that you cut this out does not matter as long as you do an angle on this one side and to an angle on the other side. Okay, and then here. Okay, so we have our things. We take our little pieces and put it in our little trash right there. We're good to go. All right, so now this is where I use glue. I think sometimes it also helps to make sure that your paper like bends okay. So this is a part where I use glue, and I use Barely Arts. It'll be linked. So I usually start on the long side and I take this off. You can use your fingers when it's chipboard. It's easy, but I also use my pokey tool. When it's paper, it's a little harder to see. So I take that off first. And then this is where I use a little glue. I put glue right along this edge here, just because I want to make sure that the paper sticks to the, I want to make sure that it sticks to the side here. So I just do that. And then I use it again. And I just push this over, and that's it. I go up here and do it once to attach that. And then I go here to attach this, and then it spreads out my glue. Okay, sometimes you can put more glue. I'll show you when I do the other side. So I also, I'll do this side now, and I'll show you an alternate method. So we use our pokey tool. If you don't have a pokey tool, this tool, this weeding tool, they sell these at Dollar Tree too, not just the Cricut one. Works super well for this step. Okay, so again, I always put glue right here on the edge. I always do that because I just think it helps me with cracking, and it just helps with sticking. So I always do that. But something else that sometimes you'll see people do is put glue here. I don't think this is a necessary step, but if you want to be extra mega safe, you can. And then you just push it over. And then we do here, and then we do here. Okay, so now we have those two sides. Now we're gonna do these sides. I'll use this just to show you. So I'm gonna use this. I feel like that actually works really well. Sometimes I think it actually works better than a pokey tool, but it's not as pretty. And mine works really well because it's a little bit crooked, and that little edge of crookedness makes it work better. So anyway, okay, so I'm gonna put this here. If you weren't using double-sided tape, I would just recommend that you put glue right here and glue on the edge here. Okay, so just, if you want to use glue, that's fine, but that's just what I would do. Glue is cheaper, so it's definitely an option if you want to use it. All right, this is a glue holder that my husband 3D printed, but I'll put something similar in the description bar just in case you guys, because I know somebody's gonna ask. Okay, so then I close this up, I go here, and I go here, easy peasy, and then I do my last side. And I like to take the tape off first and then do the glue because I don't want my glue to dry while I'm taking off the tape. This glue dries super fast. Another glue that people use is art glitter. I'll link that too, but I have it, but I have never used it, but I do see people swear by it. I think I've heard that it dries even faster than this glue. So yeah, again, if you were using glue, that's what you would do. And then you just turn this over, and then we're gonna do it here, and we're gonna do it here. Okay. When I'm using glue, I also always have one of these little chamois things that I got from, this is actually a crafty cloth from scrapbook.com. I always have one of these close by. And there's different ways to do this, but I didn't want to confuse you guys, so I just left the edges. If your edges stick out, what I usually do is just, I would just take this and just like kind of bang it in and pull it around. Another thing you can do is just go like this. Okay, and that will take care of those for you. Okay, you can also do that. That's another thing that people do. And that'll just make it fixed around the edges. Okay, so now we have our very nice cover. Okay, so now next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna reinforce this little spine here. So because we need to be able to fold this, so we're gonna use our bone folder here. This is why the bone folder is not optional. You do need a bone folder. This is a Teflon one that I get on Amazon. I'll link it, like I'll link everything else. I'm kind of reminding myself too, so when I watch this video, I remember to link everything. So you're just gonna, you are just gonna, and that's just to make it easier when you're folding right here. Okay, and we're gonna bring this up while scoring at the same time. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same thing the other side. I like to use my right hand because I am right-handed, so I just turn the whole thing around. Okay, and you know what? I just remembered. You're gonna actually, remember that piece that I said we didn't need? We did actually need that piece. So now we're going to cut out another piece, and I'll make sure this is in the description bar, and it's going to be 4.5 by 8 3/8. I just forgot to write it down, and that's going to be because we're going to glue this right here to cover up our our spine and a little bit of our base. Okay, this is just extra reinforcement to make sure that, you know, our book stays together. So that is what this piece is actually for. So what you're going to do here, you can use glue or you can use double-sided tape. I'm going to use glue right now just because it's faster. Double-sided tape does actually take longer. Obviously it sticks immediately, but this Barely Arts glue is pretty good too. And actually I may switch over to my one that has a little more juice, because this one has a very, very, very narrow tip. So sometimes it hurts my hand after a while. Okay, so we're going to try to keep this like centered this way. So we're just going to kind of look, I don't want my head to be in the camera. This doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, it's the same color. And we're just gonna do that. Okay, we're gonna use our scraper just to make sure that glue sets. If you get glue on the top, just rub it off. No big deal. Okay. All right, and now because we did the little score lines, even though this is covered, you can still see the tiny score lines, and that's also part of the reason why we did this, so that we'll remember where they are, because otherwise you won't be able to see them. So we're gonna just use use the little guides that we made for ourselves, and we're gonna score this again. Okay, and be careful with your score tool, especially if you have one of like the sharper ones, because you don't want to put a hole in your paper. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but it's not ideal. If that happens, you may want to use another sheet of paper. So we're going to use our little guide right there, and that's going to help us. And we're going to score this again. Okay, you want to go back and forth. You do want to use some pressure because you know you are like, you know, going through cardstock, but don't do it sharp, because then you will put a hole. I think that's why they make this really nice edge. And all bone folders are not created equally. This Teflon one is really good. It's a little bit pricey, but I mean, I've been using it forever. I do find that the Teflon is much better than even those ones that you find at Michael's that are plastic. And this one has this little surface, so I use both sides of this, and I use both sides of this. So anyway, I like it. All right, so now we're also going to do the thing again where we score it while folding. Okay, and then we do this side. And again, don't just do it in one fell swoop, because you probably will get, your paper will probably end up ripped. So, okay. So we have coerced this into closing, and now I'm always nervous at this part. I also like to rub this part sometimes because I feel like it heats it up a little bit. It makes it a little more pliable. But that's it, you guys. So we made our base, and we have our little inside here. The difference between a folio and a mini album, in case you're wondering, is a mini album actually has hinges in here and has multiple sheets. A folio is just a front, a back, and nothing in the middle. In case you were wondering, that's why this is called a folio. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, now that we have created our outside, this is the time that we want to put our ribbon closure on, because otherwise we will forget. Okay, so we're going to take our ribbon. So we did two pieces of 12-inch ribbon, and at this point we want to attach it here. So what I usually do is I usually use my double-sided tape here, and I will peel it off later, but I just rip off 2 pieces, and I just think about where I want this to be. So here I want it to be kind of in the middle, a little bit higher, and I will just literally stick, this tape is so sticky that I'll just stick it on right there. Okay, and then for the back, I'll turn it over, and I'll try to make this, like, you know, as even as I can. So this is pretty even, right? And then I'll try to make the ends even too, because that'll help me when I'm folding it later. It doesn't have to be perfect, but again, you guys, I'm an engineer, so I can be a little bit crazy when it comes to this kind of stuff. All right, so I hold it. It would have been easier to do it this direction. So I hold it like this. I lay it down, and then I wait until they're together, and then I just stick this on. Okay? So now, right now, we could still use it in any direction. So if you have a side that you like better, or like, you know, this corner looks better or something, you can still flip it around. But after this, after our next step, that's it. So you have to decide right now, what's your front and what's your back, okay? Because right now they're even, but they won't be for very long. All right. So I think this side looks better, so I'm going to keep that as my front. So I'm going to open this back up, and we added our ribbon closure. Okay, so now we are done with our cover, and so now let's move on to our next thing. The next thing we're going to work on is our belly band, and remember, our belly band is the little thin sheet here that is 3 1/8 by 9 1/2, and I already scored these, so we are going to fold these scores over. And if you want, you can burnish this. I don't think it's necessary, but I will do it anyway. And what we're going to do here is, after we scored it, we're going to work on our waterfall. We're not going to adhere it to this yet because we need it for our waterfall. So remember, for our waterfall pieces, we have these 6 pieces that are 3 1/8 by 4 5/8, and remember, they're scored at the top along the 4 5/8 at 1/2. And I'm just going to go through and quickly score these. I do like to use the bone folder on this one just so that my waterfall doesn't end up crooked. So I would recommend that you go through and score these. And I'm just gonna leave this in because it's pretty quick. Hopefully then it'll give you a more accurate assessment of how long the base of this will take you to make. All right, so we have all 6, including our front one. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna attach these starting at the very top. After we fold this, we're gonna start at the top and these are gonna line up like this. And you can use this, that's why I didn't wanna attach it, because it makes it easier to make sure that it's straight if you're using, you know, the back of this. Because if your waterfall is like this, you're gonna know, oh, this is not right, okay? So let's start gluing these on. You can use glue, you can use double-sided tape if you have 1/2 inch or 3/8 inch tape, but I'm gonna use glue because it's faster. And I'm just gonna put glue. You wanna make sure you put glue along this very top edge because that's the like part that's gonna have the most use. Okay, and then I'm gonna start right here at the top and I'm gonna use the top to help me. So what I usually do is I usually go upside down. I open this up a little bit and then I hold it like this. And I try not to work on my surface just in case I get glue. So I'm gonna put this to the side for a second so that I'm not confusing you guys. So I'm using the belly band part and I usually just go like this and I hold my finger here just to make sure that it's even. And I push it down because sometimes your fold is weird. See how like it looks like it's straight here, but there's like space right here. So I worry about that being lined up more than I worry about the top being like perfect, because if it's crooked, it's just gonna look weird. Okay, so I am gonna burnish this because I am using glue. And then I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna burnish it here too. Okay, and then I'm just gonna attach these. Basically, I'm gonna use this line to show me how to attach the rest of them. So I'm gonna basically just butt this up against this line and that's gonna keep them even all the way down. Okay, so let me do that and I will be back. Let's see if, I'm gonna try to speed up this part of the video. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, we're doing our last one now. So we're gonna glue this. And we're gonna slide it so that we can feel that it presses up against this guy. So I will know when to stop, and then I like to double check while the glue is still wet that it is in line with this belly band, and then I hold it and burnish. Also do this way, and if I have any excess glue, I usually just remove it and stick it on the back of my hand. That's what I do, and then I wash my hands later. All right, so now we have created, I'm gonna go back and close these down. You want this to be super flat because otherwise they won't stay, and then they'll also make your album bulky. That's why we used some twine here. Okay, so now we have our belly band, we still have our folds, but we have our waterfall attached to it. Okay, and that is that. And then now what we're gonna do is, while we're here, we're gonna work on the pocket that's gonna go on the bottom here. And that is this sheet that is, this is actually, the width on this is actually 4 1/8. I have it, it doesn't really matter, but this is actually 4 1/8 by 2.5 tall. So this is actually 2.5 tall. And we're gonna score it at 1/2 on both sides. So let me just do those scores. And this is the part that we're using right now. And this is for our waterfall. Okay, and remember we had some string coming out, so this is where we're gonna get our twine. Our 2 pieces of twine. Actually forgot to do this when I was making this myself. And at the bottom, we're gonna turn this over, and at the bottom of one of these pieces, we're gonna just attach this twine right now with double-sided tape. And you don't wanna use you could use this super thick double-sided tape. I'm gonna use something a little thinner, just because this is actually gonna be the bottom of the pocket. So that's the reason. So I'm just gonna do a little piece right here. Yeah, that should be pretty good. And I am gonna burnish this just because it's so close to the edge. And in addition to this, I'm gonna also put a little bit of, I'm gonna take this off and I'm gonna put a little bit of Scotch tape here too, just for extra reinforcement. Also, I don't want the bottom of this pocket to be sticky that high up, so I'm just gonna kind of cover up the sticky that I made here. Okay, and then that is gonna ensure that this does not come out. So make sure to burnish this well. You'll know it's burnished well because it'll get darker. The tape will get darker. Okay, all right. Now, we're gonna attach this to the bottom of here. Now, on the sides, we're actually gonna put glue on the inside here. And then we're gonna put a small line of glue right across here, and we're gonna attach it to this. Okay, you could also use double-sided tape here, and I actually think I will. This is 1/4" tape. It'll be linked in the description bar. I'm actually gonna put that here because I think that'll probably stay a little better. So I want that to go very close to the edge, like that. Okay. And then I'm gonna use glue for this part. So we're gonna burnish that down, and we're gonna take this tape off. I always take my tape off before I start gluing, just in case the glue dries. Because I feel like when I'm using Barely Arts glue, I'm in a rush because it dries so quick. And you're gonna put glue right on the inside of this tab, and that's because we're gonna wrap it around the belly band. So it's actually gonna be attached on the back of the belly band instead of on the front, like an additional pocket, and that's just to help us with the bulk. Okay, so I have my waterfall feature here, and I want to make sure that this is around the bottom of this, where this fold is. So I'm going to do that, and be careful that your floss doesn't get stuck. And I'm going to hold this. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? Sometimes I'll put glue on top of the tape just to give me a little more time, and just so that I can slide it over if I need to. So that's a little sneak trick from me. So I want this to be at the very bottom here. So I'm gonna, on this side, I'm gonna go right at the corner. Keep this tab out just because you don't want it to get glued down. And then I'm gonna stick it right there. And then I'm gonna grab it on this side and press it closed. And then I'm gonna make sure that it's lined up over here, which it is, and then I'm gonna put it around here, this side. This is why the glue is helpful. Okay. That's perfect. You're giving me a little bit of trouble. There we go. All right. And then I'm gonna burnish this. So the fact that we put glue here means that this pocket is not all the way deep to here. It kind of is deep to here, and that's okay. That's what we want. Okay, so let's burnish this. And let's actually turn it around where our tabs are, and make sure that our glue is all spread out back here. I wouldn't worry about this, taking this part off, because, you know, it's the back, so you're not going to see it. But if you're a neat freak like me, this is why my projects take me so long, is because I want every little bit of imperfection off of my projects. Okay, so now we have our little pocket here. So this is where we could put some little journaling cards or some little tchotchkes here. Like if I wanted to stick this in here, I can. Okay, so we have a pocket. So now we are basically done with our belly band, but we are not ready to glue it yet. So what I'm gonna do now is this is where my clips come in handy. And if you want, you can just place this on here, but I'm gonna actually use my Dollar Tree clips. They come in a 6-pack. They're very much worth the $1.25 or $1.50 or $100, however much it costs at Dollar Tree now. And yeah, so we're gonna put that there. While we're working with our twine, we're also gonna use the other piece, and we're gonna put it right at the top of here on our very top waterfall. And we're just gonna take a piece of double-sided tape, and we're gonna rip off a piece, and we're just gonna stick it right here while we're thinking about it. Okay, we're gonna burnish it down, and but this is gonna be covered up, so we're not really worried about how that looks. Okay, so that's it for the belly band. That's basically it for that. And so you are done with the belly band. All right, so now we are going to move on to our insert. So remember, we made an insert that's going to go back behind here, right? And remember, our insert was 3 3/4 by 7 3/4 tall. And at this point, I want to corner around the edges, just so I don't forget. So this is a very, you know, easy thing. Just kind of go around the corners. I like the very rounded corners, but if you don't, you can just, you know, do what you like. I'll put a link to this, and also like the crocodile one, which is the one that a lot of us use. And I love my little garbage for all these little scraps. And at this point too, I'm just going to tuck this under here, just because I like to know, like, okay, my projects are done. I'm just going to stick that under there for now. Okay, so that's that. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is work on this front section. So we did the back section, and now we're going to work on the front. And for this, we're going to need the front pocket, which is this piece that measures 5 by 10. And remember, it's scored 1/2 and 3/4 on the 5-inch side, and on the 10-inch side, it's 1.5. It's 1/2 and 3/4 on both sides. Okay, so we have a pocket, which whenever we have a pocket, we have scores on 3 sides, and this is the side that is going to open. Okay, but before I score this is what I want to do. I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to miter. Now, when we mitered our cover, we left a little bit of space. When we miter our pockets, we do not leave space. So right here, this corner where our very first line meets our first line, we're gonna cut right through that corner, okay? So we're gonna cut right through that on this side, and we're gonna cut on this side. Right through the corner, okay? We're not gonna leave any extra space here. Another thing we're gonna do is, just to make our pocket easier to get in and out of, we're also gonna miter down. So we're gonna start at where, because remember, this is gonna be folded and our pocket is gonna start here. We're gonna miter down on both sides. And sometimes I'll just turn it over and miter this way just so I can make sure that I'm catching that, okay? All right, so now we have, remember our pocket, the up part of the pocket, the top of the pocket is here. So we're mitered here and we're mitered here. Now we're gonna do our scores. So let me put this guy to the side. So we're gonna score. I find it easier to score the smaller section, burnish, and then score this. And burnish, okay? Actually, do I? I think I want to score. Let's try that. Let's score this part first. Yeah. And then this part second. Yeah, that's what I like to do. So I'd like to score the innermost one first. And then the outermost one. Sometimes it's hard when they're scored so close together. Okay, so now I have what is going to be a pocket. You see this? And the pocket is a little bit gusseted. That's why we have 2 score lines. Okay, so we scored and we mitered that. Now we want to take our other piece, which is for our front flap, and that measures one of these is 2 3/4 this way by 8 1/2 this way. And we're on the 2 3/4, we scored at 1/2 and 3/4, which is what we did here. So we're gonna basically make another kind of gusset. And so we're gonna fold this over. And then we're also gonna do this one next. So do like a light score before you burnish it. Okay, now on the side that is not folded, we're also gonna round these corners. So I'm gonna use the same one that I used. Uh-oh, just kidding. That's why I always look at these when I'm doing them, because you just don't know if you got it all the way in. So let me actually do a better job here. There we go. Okay, so now we have our pocket and we also have our closure. And remember, when we're looking at our project, the section that we're working on right now is this pocket in the front and this closure, okay? So let's bring our undone one first, right here. And we're gonna attach this. Now we're not gonna attach the whole part because remember, we still have to mat. So if you want, this is a great time to put the matting on these on. No, it's not. It's not a good time. Let me tell you why this is not a good time to put the matting. We want to do a magnet. Now, if you're doing Velcro, this is a great time to do your matting. But if you are like me and you are doing a magnet, this is what we want to happen first. So we want to take our pocket. Now the inside of our pocket is going to perfectly align with the inside of our book right here. Okay, so in here, this pocket, this little tab is going to line up perfectly here. Okay, so in order for me to be able to press down well, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to glue right here. I'm going to glue this. And I'm not going to put glue on anything else, just this tab. And remember, I always try to get close to this edge because I think that's what experiences the most movement and pressure. Okay, so I'm going to kind of flatten this And I'm gonna flatten this side too, just so it doesn't get in my way. Okay, and then I'm going to turn this over. And this part, remember, this is my gusset. So I don't want that to be what I attach to the edge. I want the bottom of it to be what I attach. So now I'm gonna look right here. And I'm gonna try to line it up with this edge right here, okay? So I'm gonna just put it like this, and I'm gonna use, because remember, this pocket is just slightly smaller than our cover. So I'm gonna use the cover to help me line it up. And then I'm just gonna press down like that, okay? And I'm gonna use my bone folder just to do the initial press. Okay, and then I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna press it in good. Okay, so now my pocket is attached just by that one tab and I still have my gusset free. We do not wanna glue down the gusset, okay? All right, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna do it with our flap. So remember our flap, and I actually did not miter this before, but I'm gonna miter it now just because I know that sometimes it's just easier. So I'm just gonna cut out a little chunk just to that first line, okay? Okay, so now I'm gonna fold this down flat again, remember, because I do not wanna glue. Do not put glue on your gusset, okay? It will not turn out well. And I'm gonna put glue right here. I'm going to pay attention to that very inner edge. The outer edge doesn't matter as much because we're going to, we're going to put glue, but I think the inner edge matters because then I feel like it can pull off and I don't want that. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to use, so we can't use this edge because it doesn't go up to this edge, but what we can do is we can use it for to make sure that it's even. So I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna hold both of these, but I'm gonna put it down right on the inside of our cover edge. Okay, but I do want these to line up, which is why I'm like just, making sure that my little tab goes over both sides of that, okay? And then I'm gonna move this out of the way, and then I'm gonna burnish it down. Okay, and then I'm gonna put it down really well. Okay, we wanna be careful here because we don't want this to go farther, otherwise then we're gonna see it on our cover, and we don't want that, okay? We don't wanna see it on the outside. So that's that. Okay, so now we have done the pocket and the flap. But because we are using a magnet, this is where we want to attach our magnet. So I get these magnets on Amazon. They're super cheap, which is why I like them. I know a lot of people use basic gray, but basic gray is expensive. And I like 2-day shipping, so that's the reason. So I usually get 2 of these. It comes in a huge pack that I have not even had to repurchase it once. I also don't make like a bajillion mini albums. These are super strong too. So that's something that I also make sure I look for, is I want them to be strong. So I take 2 of them. Okay, and then what I do is I take my double-sided tape and I just take off a piece, and I'm gonna be putting a magnet on the bottom part of this and on the top part of this. Okay, so that we have, I could put it up here and then close it, but then it would have so many sheets of paper to go through, so I want to make it as strong as possible. So I'm gonna just try to remove one of these, which they're hard, so I usually just slide it with my finger. And I'm gonna put this tape right here on top. Okay, so my tape, it doesn't matter what side. The side doesn't matter. Okay, now while holding this, I'm gonna get another piece of tape. Okay, and then I'm gonna take the 2 non-sticky sides and put them together. Okay, and I'm gonna hold it like this so that it's even. And then I'm just gonna drop this. And where it drops is gonna drop exactly on top of here, okay? So now I have my tape in the exact place that I want it. So now I'm gonna put my tape on Remember, it's gusseted, so make sure you like pop it up so that your magnets will line up. I'm gonna put my first one right here. And you don't want to go too far out because you don't want to miss. Like if I put it right here, then the tab wouldn't reach it, right? So I'm going to put it kind of up close, and I'm going to stick the first one down here. So now this bottom one, I'm going to pull this off, and I'm going to burnish this down just because I want this to stay. Okay. Remember, there's going to be a sheet of paper on top of this, so it will stay, but I like to do this part because it makes the next part easier. Okay. So that's down, stuck. Okay. Now I'm going to stick it back on here again. And then with this guy up and with this gusseted, I'm going to pretend that I am closing my folder. And because it's sticky right here, it'll stay, okay? So because it's sticky, like right around here, I'm going to press it down a little bit. What I want is I just want them to be able to like come apart. So sometimes I will also stick my finger under here. You see how the tape is like wanting to go up? I'll stick my finger to kind of detach them, and then I'll press this down, and now I'll burnish this side. And so now they perfectly line up. Okay, there's no guessing here. So now when you close it, they line up and they work perfectly. Okay, and we are going to cover these up, but that is the reason why we want to do this magnet at this step. Okay, so now because we've done that, we can actually glue down the rest of our pocket. So remember, do not glue your gusset. Okay, do not glue your gusset. So we're going to put glue on here. And you could use double-sided tape for this part if you want. I'm using glue because it is faster to apply. I do not want to glue my gusset. So we're going to put glue right here. Okay. And then we're going to pull this down. Make sure that we're pushing in the gusset so that it attaches at the right place. We want it to attach upright. So I'm just sticking my finger in here. You could also stick your bone folder in here. Okay, but I want to make sure this is at a right angle, like, you know, that it sticks up. So that's why I'm kind of holding it while using my bone folder to press it. Another reason why I like this bone folder is because it's like flat, you know, on one side. Like one side is curved, but one side is flat. So it's really nice to be able to burnish that. And then on this side, I'm gonna do the same thing. Hold this guy open, press it down, and then I usually use my finger initially just to get it down a little bit so I know it's where I want it. Okay, and then I'm gonna go in here, make sure I turn it over to my flat side, and I'm gonna burnish that. And like I was saying, the Barely Arts glue is super quick, so it's already dried. I'm gonna leave the bloopers in here, guys, because, you know, this is real life. So I'm actually gonna have to reapply glue. Hopefully my face is not in the way. So I'm gonna have to reapply glue. So maybe you wanna do these one at a time. And then I'm just gonna push that down right there. Okay. So I'm gonna push it down with my finger initially. And then I am going to come in with my little bone folder, flat side down, and stick that in. Okay, so now our pocket is done. Okay, so now we're basically done. That's the base. Now we're just going to do matting. And we are basically done, guys. I do want to show you how to do the notebook at this point, and then I will speed up the matting at the end. So yeah, our portfolio base is basically done. Good job, okay? You did it. So if you did this, the rest is the fun part, okay? It's easy peasy. So let's work on the notebook. So let's go to our next chapter. Okay, so now it is time to make our notebook, and just a reminder of this is what our notebook looks like. And it does have a sewn binding, which I'm going to show you how to do. It's very super duper easy. So we're going to use our one sheet of paper that is 8.5 by 7 7/8. And remember, we scored at 4 1/4 in the middle here. And then we also have our 5 sheets of paper, and I said instructions to follow. So here are the instructions To follow. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our copy paper, and it's only 5 sheets, so I would fold these one at a time. If I was doing more, or maybe 2 at a time, but I wouldn't do too much more than that because then sometimes it gets a little messy. So just fold them in half. And sometimes when I'm doing this step, I'm gonna show you guys a trick. So first you can just fold it, you know, normal way, like that, no big deal. Just make sure that you score these with the bone folder. But something that I do whenever I am folding paper is I will use my scoreboard, and I will use this corner to help me. So say I was gonna fold all 3 sheets of this paper like this, I will use this corner or this corner. So I have the bottom corner or I have the top. So I would use this top corner, and the score folder is new to me. So let me just open it up so that since I'm doing something that's bigger. So I would push it as far as it can go in both of these directions. And I would hold it. I would use this to hold it. And then I would score it like that. Okay. Or I could also could have done it this way. So that's one way. So this scoring thing is new to me. But yeah, that's what I sometimes would do, is just like use that, the top and the inside, just to help me with the scoring. Okay, and that'll help you. And then I would go over with my bone folder. Okay, so now I have all of my papers scored. So these are the 2 sheets that I did before. I'm gonna open those up, and I'm gonna stick them all inside of each other just like a real book. Okay, and as you can see, it's gonna stick out some just because, you know, every time you put a sheet of paper, it's pushing it in that direction, but that's okay because we're gonna trim this down. So I like to just try to score this as flat as I can, just because I like my my little notebooks to be, you know, pretty flat. And now we're gonna trim it. So we're gonna make it, this paper is gonna end up being, and maybe I should have written that down. I'm gonna use this other sticky note because that's what I have nearby. But this is gonna end up being, after it's folded, the width of this is gonna be 4 1/8, and the height is gonna be 7 7/8, just like our paper here. Okay, just like this paper, the height is gonna be the same, but the width is gonna be slightly less, just to make sure that, as you can see here, the paper goes slightly in from this, because we don't want the paper sticking out. That doesn't look good, okay? So on this side, we are going to line it up. And I remember I told you guys that I was gonna give you a little lesson on eighths. So let's do that really quick, because I know there are some of you that are very intimidated by eighths. So this is a works tool. I just got this from Allie, who's Allie Plans Cuteness. And I bought this from her. And this actually has eighths. So 4 1/8, it just literally says right there that there's eighths. Now, some of you may have other ones like this. So this is my old one, my old faithful that broke. But here, as you can see, we only have fourths and halves, but the 1/8 is the little dot mark right between these two. So a lot of scoreboards have eighths, and the eighth is just the little tick mark right past the 4, in between the quarter and the 4. So in between the whole number and the quarter. Now you may also have, I have a guillotine cutter that has a lot of tick marks, okay? So maybe your thing looks like this. Here's another thing where it doesn't tell you quarters or eighths. It just has a whole bunch of tick marks. It has a super thick one at the half mark. And then it has the quarter one, which is between those. And then it has all of these. These are 16ths. So this little, the second to smallest one, this is the eighth. This is the quarter. This is an eighth. This is a quarter. This is an eighth, quarter, eighth, quarter. There are 8 eighths. So this first eighth is the 1/8. This, what we call the quarter, is 2 eighths, right? Which is the same thing. This is the 3 eighths. So if we were just counting the eighths, we have 1/8, 3 eighths, 5 eighths, 7 eighths. So the 7 eighths is the one right before. This tiny one here is a 16th. I don't usually see tutorials with 16ths, but if you are doing something very, very specific, that's what those are. Okay, so there's your quick lesson on 8ths. Do not be intimidated by them. I didn't realize for a long time on my ruler the 8ths, but it's funny. I homeschool, so I get to relearn all of these things, but I know there's a lot of people intimidated by 8ths. So anyway, we are going to 4 1/8. So we are going to line up, and this is our folded edge at this 8th. Mark right here. Okay. And I'm going to remove this just because it's going to get sliced. If I don't, I'm just going to move this over to the side. And I'm going to close this up here. And you might have to make, if you have this kind of thing, this kind of cutting paper trimmer, you may have to make a few passes. So don't try to cut them all in one pass, okay? And sometimes you can start in the middle. And then go this way. And you may have to go 1 more time or 2 more times, just depends, okay? But eventually it will cut, all right? So that's what happened here. So these are just extra. I'm not gonna save these because I saved too many scraps and then I have too many scraps. So now we have a nice clear edge. If something happens and this doesn't end up, you can always use your scissors and just trim, you know, whatever little area you missed, okay? No big deal. Okay, so we have our 4/8. We also want this way to be 7 7/8. So we're gonna, remember 7/8 is the one right before the 8. Unless you have those little tiny tick marks, then it's 2 before the 8. It's not, it's in between the 3/4 and the 8. And we are gonna do the same thing. I like to kind of, what I've heard people refer to as like sink my blade right here in the middle. Just, it gives you less of a chance of like shifting. Okay, that's it. Easy peasy. So now I have my little innards here. And my innards are this, okay? 4 1/8 by 7 7/8. Now we're gonna take our sheet of paper that we had. And remember that paper was 8 1/8 by 7 7/8. And we scored it, so now we're gonna fold on the score line right here, right? And we're gonna take our paper that we just made and we're gonna just stick it in here. We're gonna go like this because the height is the same. And we're gonna know here that we have something really nice. Okay, so on here, now if you want, you can glue, you know, you can try a different binding. If you have a cinch, you can use that. There are just so many different things that you can do. But I'm going to show you here how we're going to use thread, just some basic needle and thread. So this is bookbinding thread. You can use any thread as long as it's pretty strong. And I have a needle. My needle is kind of big. And I do need my ruler for this step. And the only reason why we need a ruler is because what we're going to do is we're going to put this to the side for a second. We're going to look at this and we're going to try to go approximately 1 inch on each side. And we're going to look for the center. So we're at the center line, okay? We're going to go just about 1 inch. And we want to mark a dot. So this is what we need our pen for. So we're going to try to mark a dot right on that center line. I know it's going to be really hard for you to see this. Let me see if I can move my scoreboard out of the way. Maybe that'll make it a little bit easier. So do you see our little scored line here? So we're going to try to go up 1 inch from the bottom. And then if you can see, we're going to just try to put a little dot right at our score line. Okay, so that dot is tiny just because I didn't want to do it and mess it up, but it's going to be right here on the inside. This does not have to be perfect, but you just want to do, you want them to be very even. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to measure. I'm just going to look here and be like, okay, this is just about even. Okay, 1 inch. Then we're also going to put another dot in the center. And again, I'm just going to eyeball this and put a little dot right here. Okay, because it doesn't matter. Now you're going to use a pokey tool, a sharp one. I have a lot of pokey tools. Some of them are not as sharp as others. So use something sharp here. And we're going to stick a hole right on our dot. So you see how my little pokey tool is making my little hole here? That's that. So we do 1 hole there. And this is where if you have an ice pick would be good here. Anything that is sharp. Okay, so we did that. And we don't have to push it all the way through. That's enough because our needle is not that big. And if you're using a smaller needle, you need an even smaller hole. And then we're going to do this third one here. Okay. And I like to do the paper first before I put on the outside, but now we're going to take our cover. And it's nice that our cover is two-sided here, so make sure you pay attention to the direction. And we're going to line it up here. Remember, the inside is going to be smaller, but the outside height, the height here is going to be the same. The width is going to be a little different, and we're going to hold it in there. And at this point, if you want to just be like super sure that you're doing the right thing, you can actually put a clip right here, or even right here on the actual center, just to make sure that your paper is not sliding. Okay, and then I'm going to use my hole that I already made just to poke a hole in this. So we have one hole there, we have one hole here, and we have one hole here. Okay, so now we have holes on the outside, right on our crease. All right, easy peasy. Now we're gonna thread our needle. And I am blind as a bat, so I'm just gonna take off, you know, quite a bit, just more than I need, because I'm never gonna use this entire roll in my entire life. But I just take a lot. I probably would say, let's see how much I would, for those of you who are very specific like me, this is probably 36 inches. I don't need that much, but that's what I did. And actually it's less because I'm about to cut this off. So now it's 30. Now it's 30 inches. Okay, I use a threader because I am blind. I will put this in the description bar. I put this through here. I don't even know if I'm using it right because I'm not a real sewer, but that's what I do. And I go like this, where it's a lot easier to see. Uh-oh. This needle also has like a pretty big hole, so that is helpful. I just stick it through here, and then I just pull it through here. All right, good. So we use that. So now we're gonna double it. I'm not gonna knot it just because it's unnecessary, but I do want to kind of make it mostly doubled. Okay, mostly even. Not perfectly even on the ends, but it's good enough. Okay, so now when I write this down, I basically talk about if I'm threading from the inside or if I'm threading from the outside. So you hear me say inside or outside, okay? So that's what that means. So if I'm going this way, it's inside. If I'm coming from the outside, that's outside. Okay, so I go from outside. So I go from inside to outside from the middle. So I go right here with here, okay? And I'm gonna pull this. Now, don't pull it all the way through. Leave yourself a little, like this much, you know, or maybe even more than that. And just don't pull it all the way through. Otherwise, you'll have to start over, okay? And as I told you guys, mine is not even. So we're going to do that. Then on the top hole, we're going to do outside, inside. So we have outside, inside. Okay? Good. Remember, I don't want this to get pulled all the way through. So, yeah, that's good. Okay, now we're going to do the bottom, and we're going to do inside, outside. Inside, outside. I hold that down, okay? And then we're going to do the middle again, but this time we're going to do outside, inside. Outside, inside. Okay, and then that's it. So now we're going to have this here. We're going to cut this off of our needle. And then we're going to take our two tails that we have now. We're going to squeeze them a little bit, not too tight because you don't want to rip your paper. And then we're going to tie this in a knot. And I usually do like 3 knots here just because I don't want it to come apart. But I mean, unless you're planning on doing some real damage, some aggressive journaling, this should be okay. But I still do 3 knots because I'm extra. Okay, and then we're going to trim our little tails here. Of course, my last knot would give me issues. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. And now I'm gonna cut this right here, and that's it, guys. We have now made our own notebook. So you can make your own notebook now for all kinds of reasons. And if you want to use more paper, you can. Less paper, you can. And right now, this paper, On the outside, you would think you could flip it in either direction, but remember the inside is directional. So if your inside and outside are directional, then it can go in either way. All right, so we have created our notebook, and this is the notebook that we're gonna use in our pocket. Okay, guys, so that is basically the entire tutorial. Now, all we have to do is the fun part. So now we're just gonna decorate. So I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna speed this up. We are just gonna mat all of this. I'm gonna put some music on. I'm probably gonna put my book back on that I have to stop while I'm recording this tutorial. So this is a real sacrifice, guys. So make sure you give this video a like because I'm sacrificing my beloved book time. But it's all good. I love you guys, so it's no problem. All right, so we are going to mat all this. I'm going to speed this up. I'm going to turn on some fun music for you to listen to. I'm going to turn on some music for me to listen to and or my book, and then we're going to be done. And in the end, I'll slow down. I'll show you the final flip through of our new one, and then we will wrap this up. Okay, and one other thing that I wanted to add is that when I speed this up, I do want you to mat the items in the order that I mat them in. For example, we need to attach this belly band to our mat and then glue those together. So basically just do it in this order if possible. That's basically all I wanted to say. Okay, now I'm going to speed it up. And for this too, if you're using Velcro instead of our magnetic closure, you can just add your Velcro at the very end. Okay, so I'm not going to show that because I used a magnet, but if you are using Velcro instead, you can do all of the stuff that I'm about to do, and then at the very end, you can just add your little Velcro, and you can just do that at the very end. Okay, okay, so now I'm going to speed it up, and then we're going to be done. Okay guys, we are all done and we just did a little decoration. Remember, you can decorate as much or as little as you want. You could even hang a little dangle from here, like put a hole with a crocodile, and I may do that in the future. But this was just my preliminary. I may end up, knowing me out, and I'll add a bunch of stuff to this, but this is just the basics. So I'm just gonna do a final flip through. So we have our cover here. I did use a die to make this rosette, and I had, as you saw, I make a bunch of these flowers like whenever I'm not in the mood to do like crafting. I want to do something productive, and I keep them in this Dollar Tree bin, as you can see, sorted by color. And then sometimes I'll keep like larger flowers on this side, but I have something else that I keep, like, because I have so many big flowers. So anyway, that was that. So I put those on there, and then if we open this up, we untie this from our pretty spider bow. So cute. I've been making little bows out of this too, and it's so cute. Okay, so after we untie this, we open this up, and I added this little sticker, and the sticker actually came from this little thing right here. I forgot to put it when I was decorating. And then again, remember, you can add as much as you want. We are magnetized here. If you are doing Velcro, you can now add your Velcro right here, and then you'll be done. So just put a piece here and a piece there. Inside we have our little notebook that we made, and we decorated it a little bit. I have multiple sheets of this sticker. So when I did my original one, I had this on both sides. I had the orange on both sides, but since I'm only using one sticker sheet for this one, I didn't do that. But you can, you know, do what you want with this. And then remember, we have our little inside here. So cute. Put that back. And then we have our little waterfall. So if we untie this, we have all of our cute little cut-aparts that literally fit perfectly here. And at the very back, we have some more cut-aparts that I just stuck in here, but you put anything you want. I put a journaling one and one that says Squad Ghoul. So cute. So this pocket can hold whatever you want. And then right underneath here, since this is a belly band, we also have our other larger journaling card, and we put a solid on the back, and that is it, guys. So that's it, you guys. Thanks for hanging in there. If you make this, please let me know below. I would love to know. And you guys, please give this video a like. This was for sure labor of love, but I am going to try to do, if you guys like these, I'm going to try to do like more. I'm going to push myself and try to do more tutorials, but they are a lot more work. So if you appreciate them, let me know in the comments, okay? Because that'll keep me motivated to keep going. And I love watching tutorial videos, so I get it, but it's just, they require a lot more. So anyway, you guys, I love hearing from you. So if you attempt this, please, please, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.